ant keepers, and welcome to another episode of My Antics, where we explain how to take care of your colonies from a test tube all the way to an formicarium. Today we're going to be talking about some easy to follow methods to keep your colonies in the dark, followed by an easy process to clean your test tubes out even if your colony has workers. Let's get into it. In a previous video, we stated the importance of keeping your colonies or queens in the dark. This isn't always as easy as it sounds though. To help you simplify your ant keeping, I introduce you to one of my own designs, the test tube sleeve. This helps your colonies stay in the dark, even if their surrounding areas is exposed to light. Let's get into exactly how we make these. For our project today, we're going to need a couple different materials. Paper, scissors, the exact test tube size that you're used to using, electrical tape, and possibly a pen if you need to do any kind of outlines before you cut. The paper that I have here specifically is as long as the test tube itself, but if you have normal paper, that's okay too. You can end up tracing it and cutting it out, normally trying to give yourself 3 inches in the very least. After which you will end up with a paper triangle that looks something like this. From here, take your test tube and gently roll the paper over it, making sure that there are no gaps in between. Take your tape and put it at a slight angle, about 1 inch above the bottom. Now give your tape some slack and gently roll it up the test tube. After you got to the top of the test tube and cut the tape off, slide your test tube out of the sleeve by pushing on the bottom. Take your scissors and give it a slight cut on the top and the bottom. Now you can take your sleeve and reapply it to the test tube that you're using. And that's how you make a test tube sleeve. Creating test tube sleeves is one of many beneficial practices to help you succeed in ant keeping. Another important guide to benefit test tube colonies is how exactly to clean the inside and remove their garbage pile. Let's take a look at this Camponotus discolor colony. You can try your very best to keep the inside of their test tubes clean, but eventually you will have to do some manual work. Having a pair of tweezers is a great way to get inside the test tubes easy and hopefully out without any escapes. Taking the cotton off and going in with tweezers is fairly easy, though you might have an escape or two, which you can pick up with some loose cotton between your fingers and put them back in. Though taking out the dried remains of the food that you give them, some of the most difficult stains on the inside of the test tube comes from dry honey and dry liquids that probably came from their last week's meal. To be able to clean that out properly, I highly recommend you take a piece of cotton and wrap it around the tweezers. Take a spray bottle and spray the cotton so it's damp. From there, you can replace the cotton for air and replace it with the moist cotton, which you can then spin in a circular motion and pick up all of the dried liquids that have been stuck to the inside of their test tube. You can go as far in as where the queen and the brood are, but be very careful when you do this. You don't want to pick up any of their brood on the cotton. After you've cleaned the walls off, gently take the cotton out of the test tube and replace it back with the original air cotton. At first, working with your colonies can be a bit nerve-wracking, especially the thought of a worker escaping, which means you would have to chase her down. For that reason, and many others, I always recommend new ant keepers to have a constant supply of cotton balls. Cotton balls are not only used for catching ants, but to give your test tube colonies a water source and airflow, along with a moisture gradient inside your nests. Another tool that I would always recommend are tweezers. Tweezers are used for putting in new food and taking old food out. Last on my list for tonight, I always recommend a water mister. For miscellaneous reasons, it always comes in handy, and I believe it is something that you should have in your ant keeping arsenal. Today we talked about how to make a test tube sleeve and how to clean out a test tube. That wraps everything up for tonight's video. I hope y'all enjoyed, and remember, happy ant keeping.